What are the different types of trust you are having? And I mean, the formats.
We can do an asset protection so that in the event your children get divorced, subhanAllah, they do not lose the property, right? Because they don't own it. Your tax will be, once you pass over 7 million in New York State, is going to be $1 million. There are a number of trusts, right? So the trusts are broken down to revocable and irrevocable. Can we sell the property once you put it into a trust? Yes. Can you change the beneficiary? Yes. Right? Can you, right? You can do anything you want with it, right?
What are the different types of trust you are having? And I mean, the formats.
I just wanted to hit 5 points that I want them to take for tonight.
Definitely.
Right? So let me just finish the other 3. So one is, the other benefit of going to of doing a trust is that you get asset protection for your children. So again, you've worked your whole life to pay these properties off.
Okay.
Right? And once they give it to your children, it becomes marital property. So what does that mean? That means if your children get divorced, they lose the property. They lose half of it. We can do an asset protection so that in the event your children get divorced, subhanAllah, they do not lose the property, right? Because they don't own it. Right? So we craft the language in a way that they will be the trustee, and we have another co-trustee, and that other trustee will not allow the spouse to get that property. No court of law will enforce it, which is great. So you don't lose half of your property, right, to your child's divorce. Another benefit is asset protection for you. I know many doctors, I know many contractors, okay, they get sued. They come to me after the fact. So please, come to me before you get sued, because a trust does not protect you after you get sued. It's to protect you for things that you do not know. So again, you do not have to lose your property. You've worked so hard. I know a lot of contractors, they sign bonds. I know doctors, obviously they're doing professionals, CPAs. You guys are obviously giving advice. You may make a mistake. You could get sued. And last thing that I want you to take from today is that let's say you are wealthy, all right? You do own assets more than $7 million. So New York State has this estate tax that starts at $7 million. And again, just to simplify, because I'm running out of time, your tax will be, once you pass over 7 million in New York State, is going to be $1 million. That estate has to find $1 million to pay the estate tax. And most of the times you end up having to sell 1 or 2 assets just to pay the estate tax, okay? So there are ways that we can try to minimize that, right? And then there's also a federal estate tax. So there's federal estate tax and New York estate tax. Most people will not have to pay a federal estate tax. It's like 23 million, but it's gonna drop in starting 2026, it'll drop to about seven for each spouse, so about 14 million that you can pass without paying taxes. The question you had, Brother Zaman, was what kind of trusts are there? All right. So there are a number of trusts, right? So the trusts are broken down to revocable and irrevocable, right? As it sounds, right? You can revoke a trust. You can change it. It's free. A lot of questions I get is, can we sell the property once you put it into a trust? Yes. Can you change the beneficiary? Yes. Right? Can you, right? You can do anything you want with it, right? It's revocable, right? It's just legal documents that the IRS and the courts have allowed you to pass assets to your heirs without having to go to court, right? Now, there's irrevocable trust. Why would you do an irrevocable trust? For many reasons, right? Well, and the biggest reason is asset protection. Right? You want that ability to avoid creditors, right? There are other things, right? So for example, let's say you have an autistic child, right? You have children who are autistic. You want to create under the irrevocable trust, you want to create this thing called a special needs trust. It's called an S&T trust, okay? So now this child, if you put this asset, okay, into a special needs trust, they can apply, even though you have millions of dollars worth of properties, that child can actually apply to the government, get aid. Why? Because they don't own anything, right? It goes into an S&T trust. And one of the things that people want to know is, like, if you do get this Medicaid, do get this aid, do you have to pay back? Again, it all depends. As long as the parent is giving the property to the child, they do not have to pay. That's called a third-party S&T trust, okay? So that is one type of trust. Now, let's say you have Medicaid trust.
Yeah, that's what just let me.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Let me introduce. Thank you so much. No worry. So, attorney আফার বক্স যে কথাগুলো এইমাত্র বললেন, রিকভারেবল ট্রাস্টের কথা বলেন, ইরিকভারেবল ট্রাস্টের কথা বলেন, উনি যে সমীকরণটা দিয়েছেন কিভাবে করতে হবে লিভিং ট্রাস্ট, এবং কি করলে কি হবে, এবং ট্রাস্ট করলে আপনার কোনো এফেক্ট হবে কিনা, আপনি বাড়ি সেল করতে পারবেন, আপনার বাচ্চারা বাড়ি সেল করতে পারবে কিনা সেটাও আপনারা করতে পারবেন। বাট আপনার ট্রাস্ট করলে এটা করতে পারবেন না সে ধরনের কিছু না। বাট কিছু কিছু জিনিস আছে যেগুলো তিনি একটু পরেই বলবেন, যেটা এখন প্রশ্ন আসছে যে হোয়াট অ্যাবাউট দ্য অ্যাসেট প্রোটেকশন ট্রাস্ট?
What about it?
Asset protection trust.
Yeah.
That is something different. Asset protection
It's just a different type of purpose.
Okay.
So what's the purpose, right? One is asset protection. One is S&T.
S&T, yeah.
Another one is Medicaid.
Medicaid, yeah.
Right? That's another purpose, right?
So you wrote on your expression here, Medicaid trust.
Yes.
So this is very important because we know lots of people, they are having Medicaid, right?
Yes, yes.
So majority, I should say, they are having Medicaid.
Yeah.
So what is the impact on that, on Medicaid?
So again, it will be an irrevocable Medicaid trust. So we'll put the assets into this trust, and it's more of a pain because basically, even though let's say you have rental properties, all this stuff, you just can't have any income that comes to you personally in your account more than $1,200. Okay, so what do people do? We just write the check to your children, and then your children would just spend it back on you, right? So that's just it's a way. Again, it's paperwork, right? It's just paperwork, right? So again, they've set it up in a way that you can qualify for Medicaid. Okay, but again, some people don't want to have that restriction, right? They don't want to have to cut their checks to their children, right? So you may not want the Medicaid trust, right? So yeah, so I mean, if you know that you're getting aid, you're going to go into a assisted living or some kind of home or something like that. It's very expensive, right? Maybe you have dementia, Alzheimer's, something like that, right? So at that point, if you have a history of Alzheimer's, a history of dementia, you need to do this Medicaid trust. Because obviously you can't do a trust if the person doesn't have capacity, right? So if it's too late, you're not going to get this protection, right? And then the children will lose the asset. So the person unfortunately has dementia or Alzheimer, there's a clawback. So the New York State wants to get all the money laid out, right? So if you don't have a Medicaid trust, they'll come and take it.
নিউ ইয়র্ক থেকে সম্প্রচারিত TVN 24 টেলিভিশন বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর।